Good morning, everyone. So thanks for joining us this morning. I think that we are in a very exciting panel because I think that we are going to be talking about what banking will look like in the future. That probably it's something that some of the guys in this table are designing today because we are the ones that we end up designing the future and decide how things will look like tomorrow. No? So the things we want to discuss today is from completely different angles and companies is a little bit of discussion about what banking will be in, I don't know, something like 5 years, and we'll have like different opinions and views about this. No? I'm going to help them go through the discussions, but I think that we probably have some time at the end for some completely open questions and answers, so I confirm with all of them that there is no confidential information that they cannot share, so feel free to ask anything that you feel you would like to learn from all of them. No? I'm going to start with a brief of introduction of each of them, and I think that you probably know better than me some of the companies that they are representing today, but I'm going to be just introducing them and helping you understand what they do. So on one side, we have Mateo Concas. He's the co-founder and CMO of Penta. For the ones that don't know Penta was launched a year and a half ago, probably in Germany, and it's a digital bank focused only on what they call companies. So they are completely focused in one big segment that is the companies, and they're trying to bring a completely different proposition for this space. They are currently in Germany only, but opening shortly in Italy, so I'm sure that we are going to be listening about them a lot in the coming months. Then I'm going to follow the order of the table. We have Pablo Gomez from Bankia. Most of you know Bankia, like I do. And he's leading the innovation lab for Bankia and doing lots of stuff also in this space about thinking about banking tomorrow. Then we have Paco Sierra. Paco comes from N26. From the ones that don't know, N26 is a digital-only bank with more than 3.5 million customers, with up to 660 million of investment until today, and they are in 26 countries. So I'm sure that we're going to be listening a lot of things about them. The gossip is that Mateo was working together with Paco a year and a half ago, so probably Paco is one of the responsibles of Penta being founded and being here today. And finally, we have Gapi, represented by Sanjeev. Sanjeev is the CEO and co-founder of Gapi. Summarizing what Gapi is, it's a blockchain-based bureau. So they are building a platform managing data for companies, banks, and customers on the blockchain and helping on different things around the data. And previous to that, he was also, probably you know, Money 2020, so he was one of the founders of Money 2020, so I think that he can probably provide lots of insight in this space. So the way we're going to be doing this is we're going to be discussing about some of the topics around what banking is tomorrow, but again, I want to leave it completely open for any one of you to ask any question at any point, so feel free to raise your hand, and I'm sure that someone is going to be helping us. So we'll start with, I think that when we think about banking tomorrow and financial services, for me the most important thing is thinking about the customer, because at the end of the day, we work every day to make sure that we are relevant and we are delivering what our customers are expecting. So I think for me the first question for all of them, and we're going to be doing this one by one, is what do you think are the customer expectations of today, what you are seeing in your space, probably in the company's space or retail, and how you see those customer expectations evolving in the next 2-3 years and what that means for you. No? So I'll leave with Mateo to start.
Yeah. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So we'll talk about customers' needs from companies' point of view. So we are talking about small, medium enterprises between 2 to 100 employees. So not talking about freelancers. So the difference here is that there are complexities in managing a team, what we call a team, not just employees. It's very common that now entrepreneurs, they want to also empower their employees, and they need also from banking solutions those services that can really enhance the collaboration between the team and the empowerment. How to do that? Through technology and digitalization. And banking so far for SMEs have not been really focused on that. So we have seen a big wave with N26, for example, in the past 6 years on banking for consumers, retail, but the backbone of the economy in Europe Italy, Germany, France, Spain, just to name the most important countries with more than 2 million, more or less, in each country, SMEs, they are not served by digital banking services. So there is a huge gap. Often they get the experience of a retail, while, as I said, complexities, accounting, invoices, all those sort of things, they are quite different from a retail point of view. So that's why we founded Penta. We offer these services to them. So we created an online banking that can really foster that sort of need. And this is what they need. So really hassle-free experience, digital, very full transparency in cost, which is another big problem, and having an onboarding that is completely digital. So you don't have to wait 4 weeks to get a bank account. So this is just to give a very initial overview on the needs of the current customers now, and we will talk later about the future.
Thank you, Matteo. So probably now, Pablo, you can give a little bit of different insight here, no? More beyond companies and also retail. So what do you think about your customers? What do you expect from you?
Yeah, so we work in both retail and corporate space, working on universal banking. First of all, I would like to say we're all, in the end, we're all customers of the banks, retail, at least retail customers, or we have a corporation that works with banks. So when we think about customer expectations on our side, we take a look at what the customers that we have, beyond 8 million customers now, are demanding ourselves. So just to engage a little bit more the audience, I would like to ask you guys, please raise your hand if you are banking currently with at least 2 banks. Come on, don't be shy. Okay, so pretty much the whole room. If we go to 3 banks, how many of you, please raise your hands? So that's like 75% of the audience. Probably the audience is a little bit differentiated, but what we see is that if you think of this 10 years ago, this was unthinkable. Pretty much everyone was banking with just one entity that was serving all the needs. And based on that, we divide into 4 streams what we do. Basically, and we can go further into this if you guys want, but basically easy and accessible is the first one. The second one would be customer service and how digital players have raised the bar for customer service. The third one is personalization, and we can go then into how we are approaching that, which is through open innovation. And the fourth one is trust. Has been the holy grail for banks along history, and right now with cybersecurity is pretty much the issue. So that's pretty much what we're at.
Cool. Paco, you probably can bring also a different angle here, no? Given you are in 26 countries and probably completely different types of customers. What you are seeing from N26 in terms of what customers expect from you and what they will be expecting in the future?
So I'll try not to repeat what Paul just said, but I'll give, well, first, N26 is focused on retail and freelancers, retail customers and freelancers, and we already have 3.5 million customers. I would like to share the big difference of actually growing as a startup, where you have early adopters, and then once you become a large entity and you're going to millions of customers, you're going into those early adopters. Sorry, yeah, into this early majority. The early adopters is actually a very differentiated niche of customers that are, I would say, that like to discover new technology and that would actually spend time and explore in their mobile apps to find and understand new features and will spend time in solving their own problems, right? When we talk about the early majority, that's completely different. The early majority is willing to actually try new things, but they want something that's easy, fast, and very transparent, right? And if it fails once, they're not going to try it again. They're not going to find their way through, right? So we need to understand that when we're looking at customers' expectations is what Paul mentioned. It's easy, it's simple, it's fast, but most importantly is that it does not fail, right? It has that trust component. And going to the point that those switching banks, or actually being with more than one bank, has recently changed quite a lot. Loyalty with your own bank is completely different and is very much dependent on customer experience. And we no longer understand customer experience as having a nice navigation in the app. It's about having those moments of delight that really you get the feeling that that bank or that entity is actually solving the problems and answering your customer needs. So that's where N26 is going to, providing those moments of delight while providing banking services.
Okay, cool. And Sanjeev, maybe you can add also here a different angle because you're doing a lot around data and customers. I mean, and this is a big thing, especially to simplify experiences. No? So how you see that and how you see those customer expectations.
Absolutely. Just to build on what Francisco just was talking about in terms of what I'll say is that we're talking about the same word, customer, but that customer is very different depending on that use case. So, for example, when I go to a bar, the bartender might think that I'm a drunk. When I go to a bank, the banker might think I'm a business person. When I go to meet up with my family, I'm a very different person. So it's very different in terms of how who I am and in that particular use case. So, for example, thinking about like blockchain and identity, like who am I, and that information that I want to share will vary dependent also on the use case. So, for example, once again, if I'm trying to get into, for example, in the States, you need to be above 21 to go into a bar. I just want to share my age. I don't need to share my address. I don't need to share this and that. All they need to know is that that age is verified and it's correct. Whereas something with like a bank, especially if I'm doing cross-border money transfers, they're going to want a lot more information. And I understand what that information is going to be used for. And so that's why we're building what we're building, is that I think up till now, it's sort of been customer means everything, one thing for everyone. Identification might mean one thing for everyone, but especially with mobile, you're using in so many different use cases, you definitely, there's a lot more granularity, and so I think that's, we're building the platform that will help support those different use cases. So I think, and you see it from the panel right here, we were just talking about customer, and we all have so many different opinions, I think. So that's,
yeah. Cool, thank you. So now that we've been discussing a little bit about customers, because I think that at the end of the day, thinking about the future, it's all starting about what customers we have today and what customers will expect to have tomorrow. I think that having worked in banking for a long time, it's quite challenging because sometimes we try to do a lot of things, and because you have regulation on one side, you have lots of segments of customers' ideas, and it's easy to end up doing a little bit of everything. And I think that in the moment where, and especially what some of you guys are doing, is being very focused in specific things that will make your companies or your organization different in the next 2-3 years, no? And especially thinking more about what customers really expect different from us. No? So let's talk a little bit about your organizations and a little bit more about what you are doing to cope with those customer expectations, and what are the 2-3 things that you are really focused in the next, 3 years that will really make a difference for your company?
Definitely. For us, being a digital bank, it means it's really important that people use digital payments as well. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for us to thrive. So this is the first wave that more or less we all are seeing in these past years. So probably it's not something new I'm saying, but still a long way to go to really reach 90-95% of payments in each country done through digital payments. Countries like Germany and Italy are still quite well below the 50%. So we are really focusing on that. The second one that maybe it's a bit less known, and it's very important for companies and small, medium businesses, is the electronic invoicing. So you always have to look around, this is more an advice to the startuppers out there, at the external changes that are happening in a more macro environment that can enhance your value proposition. So electronic invoices, it's a standard that is going to be deployed in the next years that will basically allow companies to really trace from an electronic point of view, not a PDF. It's really talking about a coded invoices that goes to the government and then gets sent to the client. And so what's happening is the digital transformation. So it really will make it much easier to really see all the different transactions, see how much VAT you have to pay, taxes, and guess what? If you start integrating this into the online banking, you can start making all sorts of things using data. Cash flow prediction, do you need lending? Look, this client always pays 3-month delay. So that is the way to go to really solve these problems that if you ask a person now, they will say it's impossible. No, it's actually possible. In Italy, it's one of the first countries that launched the electronic invoicing this January. It was seen a bit more like people were a bit concerned, but after 6 months of assessment, now it's fully integrated in the economy. And just to give you a data point, this year, the Italian state is expecting 4 billion more in VAT taxes because of these transactions that before they were done on the black market. And so this big push of the Italian state on that, we already see the results. And that's just to give you a data point on the power of the shift of the digitalization in everyday life so that you can really make the most out of it. So this is where we want to go.
Thank you, Matteo. Pablo, what about you? What are the things you can share with us?
Well, based on the streams that I told before, very aligned with what Matteo is saying, and pretty much to adjust to the customer and what he's demanding from us, we're heavily investing in lots of things, right? To be specific on one thing, I would say on the personalization of services, in our case, we have a wider range of services. Historically, that's something that the banks have done themselves. I myself personally come from different industries, and that's not the same way in certain industries. If we look, for example, I used to work on the telco industry, and for example, speaking about personalization of services when GPRS, I don't know if the audience reminds of that, was coming to the market and how customers were going to be using data services for the day-to-day use. So, and then Apple came along, Apple Store, Play Store, then Netflix, and I mean, it's still going on. That's something that hasn't happened in banking. We know we cannot cope that by ourselves, so that's why we opened the Open Innovation Program that I lead, and where we are doing is just partnering with best actors in each sector to deliver services to our customers. That's one of the big things that we're doing. We're also trying to raise the bar on customer service, which is complicated. All of us expect the same service from the different providers that we have, from the one we're getting from Amazon or Apple, and that involves a lot of technology, a lot of people, that's complicated. So basically, those are the two axes.
Cool. Paco, what about N26?
So when we think about what N26 is doing for the customer, we believe we're very much state-of-the-art and going into that direction of what the future looks like. And what N26 provides is a solution that allows the customer to have control over their finances in two main ways. So first, to be able to track properly how their financial life is, and on the other hand, to be able to move money in a very easy way. And just as a recent release that we did, we launched Spaces. That's basically sub-accounts where you're able to move, like basically sliding money from one place to the other. And in those spaces, you can have shared spaces. You can have space shared with your couple, with some friends. You can open and close it as a WhatsApp group. So that's a very, I would say, smart way of actually understanding how you can move money around and how you can actually make life simpler for the customer. We're going into that direction. Having said that, you were asking, where are we going to be 5 years from now? I can say that 3 years ago, we wouldn't expect us being where we are right now. So the goal is 5 years from now to actually be serving 1 million customers and make sure that we are providing that bank, that global mobile bank that the world loves to use, basically.
Cool. Thank you, Paco.
From Guppy's perspective, I'd split it up as looking at it in terms of the emerging economies and developed economies. So from an emerging economy perspective, so we've been reached out proactively by several large e-commerce participants in these economies that they're providing services to their customers on their mobile phones via marketplace apps, and that could be a gateway to get additional services. That could be a gateway for identity. That could be a gateway to payments to lending, all kinds of other types of services. And so if we can provide that integrated background, once again, that pushes control to the actual data owners, that's something that can be quite transformative. Looking at the established economies, I'd say we've gotten outreach from several large banks who have, so for example, there's this thing called synthetic identity fraud in the States, where people will take bits and pieces of a real person and make a fake person, but the existing systems aren't able to combat that. And so we've talked to them about how we might be able to use these new technologies to help combat that. So in established economies, we're more like a vitamin, and then emerging economies, we could be like the main solution.
Cool, thank you. So conscious of time, we have 4 minutes left, and I would like to probably do a final question to each of you. If you can answer with 1 minute, so it's going to be quite short, but conscious that we have a quite big audience here that is probably creating companies and with an aspiration to be where you are in 3-4 years, in terms of growth and customers. Could you help them understand which is the #1 thing your company does different to achieve this growth? I don't know, you are in 26 markets. Matteo told me that they are going to be launching soon in Spain, no? Italy, and then after that in Spain. So what your company does really different to achieve this growth, and what you would recommend to them?
So we like to call ourselves that we have developed a bank talking via Slack to our customers, just to give the meaning of how close we are to them. So even just a Slack message away instead of waiting the email or calling to get the feedback. So that's how we do things, really being close to our customers. It took us to start and really launch in Italy and get 10,000 customers and latest round of 8 million. So we see that we have reached the value proposition we wanted. We are really close to them. So in Italy, we have 15 people, and we'll be as close to them as possible, even via Slack, so that we really understand them and we localize the product for each market. That's key in Europe. Europe is not one country. Every country is different ways of providing financial services and regulation. So that's the key on the way we will do things.
Cool, thank you. Pablo, and thanks for being open here.
We are not in 26 countries. We just work here in Spain. Our main aim is being the preferred bank for our customers, which is pretty basic. And on that side, what we really want to do, and that's what we're pushing, is having the best solutions for our customers, whether they come from outside or not. And that's where we are putting all the effort on bringing our customers the best solutions. We've done it in the recent years, and we're trying to keep pushing and keep having the bar high so our customers are happy and work with us.
Cool. Paco, what about you? One thing you do different?
One thing that we do different is definitely continued innovation at a state-of-the-art speed, I would say. So innovation is increasingly going faster in every aspect, and we need to keep that pace, and we need to make sure that even if other players, larger players, launch something, you can have innovation internally but also externally, and you need to be able to adapt to that innovation, right? So we need to also adapt to the countries, as Matteo was saying. We need to make sure that we adapt to all the changes that are happening. And very large and traditional institutions that don't have that flexibility to actually make those changes as they happen in the market, they will basically lag behind. And I think that's where we are actually winning in the market right now, and where we expect to continue. That path.
Cool. Sanjeev?
Yeah, so I'd say, so for example, 15 years ago, I worked on a mobile payments test for Citibank. 10 years ago, about 10 years ago, I worked on Google Wallet. 5 years ago, helped build Money 2020. So, I've been working on big bank, fintech, big tech, and I think that, from my experience, they all suck and they all do good things. So you have to pick out what is good about each, and I think sort of have a ecosystem view, and I think that involves thinking for yourself. That involves not thinking about what that person who had the job before you did last year, and I think that's really important for us. Is like when we're looking at credit data, don't fall back on what's been done for 50 years. What are we going to need for the next 50 years, and why? And once again, thinking things through as opposed to defaulting to status quo.
Cool. So we have 23 seconds left. Anything you want to add, guys, to convince anyone in the audience to become a customer of your banks?
Hopefully we convinced them already.
Yeah? Cool. Okay, thank you very much to the organization. I think we're on time. Thank you.